A beautiful morning to our esteemed viewers and welcome to the Current Affairs program, Newspaper Headlines, reaching you live from the studios of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria Television, ACNN TV. The dailies are crowded with stories on proposed strike by Labour and other stories making the rounds this Monday morning. I am Rachel up with the Blueprint newspaper, and I'll start with the lead story. It says, Nigeria loses 700 billion naira in water value chain annually. This is coming from the members. And the kickers say water factory owners pay 100 naira per 0.75 liters for 1,000 naira, for 100 naira. In domestic water remains free. Water Resources Bill tops agenda as National Assembly resumes tomorrow. The details can be found on page 6. And we have the Vice President, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the head of Civil Service of the Federation. We have the representative of the Senate President during the 60th Independent Anniversary Interdenominational Church Service at the National Christian Center in Abuja. This happened yesterday, Sunday. Now below the picture, Emir of Zauzau, El Rufai forwards shortlisted candidates to security agents. See the details on page 5. Now to the bottom strip stories. APC governors rally support for Zulum. 13 Boko Haram members, family, surrender. That story is on page 5. And on page 7, Uni Abuja promotes 10 as professors, associate professors. The story is on page 7. On page 5, Catholic priest kidnapped twice in Delta. And last from the bottom strip stories, Dangote Cement produces 171 millionaires. See details on page 25. We go below the masthead. Stalemate as Labour defies court orders. Begins strike today. Although there has been an update as of this morning. Now the kickers. Court orders diversionary. This is coming from workers. We have resolved all issues. This is coming from the federal government. And the story starts from the front page. It continues on page 6. On page 9, later on we the Niger season 5. Pockets 85 million naira. That story is on page 9. And finally on Blueprint newspaper, COVID-19 impact weighing heavily on African banks. This is a report, and the story can be found on page 26. We move to the Nigerian Pilot newspaper, and I'll take it below the masthead. Again, Governor Zulum's convoy attacked as army recovers 5 bodies. See details on page 5. And on page 18, PDP challenges Governor Akeredolu to account for COVID-19 funds. Now to the lead story. Total strike. NLC, TUC, others insist on planned nationwide strike. Decry delay in reversing hikes in fuel price, electricity tariff. Warn federal government not to ambush the unions with court order. Suspend your plan. Tarry a while. Bajabia Miller pleads. That story is on page 8. Now the picture is that of the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Sujumolu Construction Limited, and the Oni of Ife during the Olojo Festival in Ile-Ife, Osun State. This happened at the weekend. Below the picture, Khan President advocates doctrine of equality for a united Nigeria. This is on page 7. Now the bottom strip stories. Nigeria Bayelsa anniversary. Injustice hindered development. This is coming from Governor Diri. And the story is on page 8. On page 10, Governor Ikpeazu hosts flag off of M.I. Okpara centenary anniversary. We'll reopen our land borders soon. This is coming from the Vice President Oshibajo, and the story can be found on page 5. On page 10, Federal Government's Hydroelectric Power Producing Commission takes off soon. CACS Intervention Fund, 400 billion naira from farmers. See details on page 25. Now the last story on Nigerian pilot. 2021 deadline to complete East-West Road, sacrosanct. This is coming from Akpabio, and the story is on page 7. Now to Daily Trust newspaper. I'll take it below the masthead. What should I just say? Nigeria could break up if you want to know the reason why he's saying this. Get the Daily Trust newspaper, and the story is on page 18. Again, Boko Haram attacks Zulum's convoy. See the details on page 23. 6 sins hindering Nigerians' development. This is coming from the first indigenous railway MD. And the streets. Now to the lead story. Full price, electricity tariff. Labour succumbs to pressure. Shelves nationwide strike. The kicker. Federal government orders discos to suspend electricity tariff hike. Says fuel subsidy removal remains. See details on page 6. Now to the picture. Is that of Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila presiding over a meeting between principal members of the House Committee on Labour with the President, Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Ayuba Waba, and the President, Trade Union Congress, Comrade Kadri, during an intervention meeting convened yesterday in Abuja by the Speaker to avert the proposed nationwide strike over the recent hike in fuel price and electricity tariff. Now below the picture, 7 days after, anxiety as Zazzau yet to get new emir. See details on page 4. The bottom strip stories. Jubilation as Laker wins BB Nigeria reality show. The details on page 13. On page 16, 2023, Obasanjo meets PDP leaders. And last story on Daily Trust newspaper. Confusion rages as 12 of 14 Iwo kingmakers insist on monarch's sack. Confusion rages as 12 of 14 Iwo kingmakers insist on monarch's sack. This story can be found on page 22. We move on to Nigerian Tribune newspaper, and I'll take it from the lead story. It says, nationwide strike, security on alert. The kickers, Labour vows to shut airports, seaports, hospitals, schools, banks, and others. Gbajabiamila meets Oshibajo, SGF after meeting with Labour. Falana to police, protect protesters. Level 12 and above must be at work. This is coming from Head of Service, and the story can be found on page 2. Beside this picture, Catholic priest abducted inside farm in Delta State. See details on page 29. On page 25, 8 suspected cult members arrested while mourning departed colleague in Ogun State. See details on page 25. Kingmakers seek court injunction restraining Oluo from sacking them. The story can be found on page 29. And the picture is that of houses affected by flood on Lokoja, Ganaja Road in Lokoja, Kogi State. This happened on Sunday. Now the last story. below the picture. Borno governor's convoy escaped another attack from suspected Boko Haram members. Returns to Maiduguri. Welcomes 1,000 returnees to Baga. 18 killed in earlier attack, as is confirmed by the Defense Health Headquarters. The story can be found on page 25. Now below the masthead. Federal government to address challenge of forex availability to oil marketers. See details on page 6. My narrow escape in Lagos Molue. This is coming from Adelabu, and the details on page 21. Page 26. Mimiko. Akeredolu trade words on governance. Now above the masthead. North remain impoverished despite dominating politics. This is coming from Ogwe. Says ACF to present economic blueprint. Details on page 27. Now the last story on Nigerian Tribune says Lakon wins 30 million naira SUV house in BB Niger lockdown edition. See details on page 30. Alright, we'll pause here to observe a short break. When we return, there are more from other dailies. Please stay tuned.
I wouldn't want to say we're in a state of anarchy, as it is, because no one is sure of his life walking on the streets anywhere today. But in the words of national security, I think we are in a state of emergency.
Nobody will say that what is happening in the country is that anybody that says that is very, very economical with the truth.
Once a law is made in any nation, nobody is above the law. If a church has a business entity, the church should pay their own taxation on whatever business they have that they are making money.
Election is not war. Soldiers must not be mobilized for election. Election is a civil affair, and I'm saying that to the federal government. Police has a primary responsibility in protecting the balloting process.
Thank you for staying tuned. We continue with the Guardian newspaper, and I'll take it with the lead story. It says, game of wits over strike. The kickers. Labour may go for deal, agree on deregulation, resist electricity tariff hike. Banks, airports, seaports to be shut. Strike against court order illegal. Lawyers insist. Police vow to enforce injections. That story starts from the front page. It continues on page 6. We have this picture of, it's tagged Fire on the Mountain. It has the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, and Secretary to Government of the Federation, Boss Mustapha, as they raised to discuss the fire on Tuesday's planned strike by Labour in Abuja. This happened yesterday. Now the bottom strip stories. Attack on Zulum's convoy claims 4 soldiers, 10 policemen, 4 civilians. That story is on page 3. And on page 12, flood sweeps man in Ondo, ravages Kogi and Niger. Son may succeed Idris as El-Rufai gets shortlist for new Zazzau Emir. That story is on page 5. Now the last story on the Guardian newspaper. Omo Ologo Lekon crowned winner of Big Brother Naija, bags 85 million naira. See details on page 2. Now to New Telegraph newspaper. I'll take it from the top. IMF projects slow economic recovery for Nigeria. The story starts from the front page. It continues on page 7. Interest rate. Inflation may fuel capital flight. See details on page 22. Below the masthead, NAFDAC seizes 1.7 trillion naira tramadol destroys 4 billion naira. See details on page 7. And on that same page, Fidelity Bank restates support for Nigeria's SMEs. Polls, PDP pallies Obasanjo and IBB. The details on page 3. On page 28, Liquor wins BB Niger 30 million cash, SUV and apartment. Now to the lead story. Labour adamant begins strike. The kickers. Gbajabiamila fails to persuade NLC, TUC. NLC will shut down banks, aviation, others. LCCI bag subsidy removal. Details on page 3. Now below the picture, Oshibajo, we have cracks that may break up Nigeria. From Khan, we must reposition our country. Kagama, Nigerians must seek nation's unity. See the details on pages 6 and 7. The last story is a research. Sleeping less than 6 hours can impair cognition. That story is on page 8. We move to this day newspaper, and I'll take it from the top. Stock market gains 350 billion naira on interest rate cut. Stock market gains 350 billion naira on interest rate cuts. The story starts from the front page. It continues on page 9. 3 days to go. This day, Arise virtual commemoration of Nigeria at 60. Now on the lead story, strike averted as federal government, Labour reach compromise on palliative. Suspend electricity tariffs increase. The story starts from the front page, continues on page 9. Let's mend cracks on our wall. Oshibajo urges Nigerians. Story starts from the front page, it continues on page 2. And the picture is tagged Thankful Hearts, as the wife of Lagos State Governor and the Deputy Governor's wife during a Thanksgiving service to commemorate Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary in Lagos. This happened yesterday. Now, the last story. At Kerodolu, Mimiko clash over alleged poor performance in office. See details on page 5. We move to Business Day newspaper, and the lead story says government averts strike. Tariff increase faces 2 weeks delay as reps beg Labour to shelve strike. The story starts front page, continues on page 29. Now the last story on Business Day newspaper. In 4 charts, why Nigerians' revenues need quick turnaround. The story starts from the front page, it continues on page 30. Alright, that is the much we can take on today's edition of Newspaper Headlines. Join us on Wednesday for a fresh edition. Until when next we come your way, I leave you with these words from Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31, which says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." I sincerely pray that your strength will be restored in Jesus' name. Have a productive week and stay blessed. Bye for now.
Marriage is the institution which God established. It is such an important institution